What's up, y'all? Welcome to Conversation Piece with Patrick Armstrong. I am the titular Patrick, and this is a show where we talk about the missing pieces of the conversations we're already having. I appreciate y'all being here with us in 2024, the year of the nap. Whether you're a first-time listener or returning listener, it means so much to me that you spend your time with us here in the studio. I'm going to talk about it after I introduce you, but I'm really excited about this conversation today. My guest today is the magician behind the movement that is Frida's Flowers right here in Indianapolis. From installations and exhibits to pop-ups and workshops, her work can be found across the city, telling a healing story that merges creative activism and bold artistry into one. When she's not immersed in the floral arts, she can be found out in the community, connecting others, and overall bringing joy and light and accountability to the spaces that she enters. Without further ado, it is my honor and privilege to welcome my friend, Madeline Mirelez-Perez Mackinnon, to the show. Did I pronounce your name correctly? Okay.
Thank you. Thank
you for being here, Madeline.
Yeah, I'm excited to be here. When I was driving in here, I was thinking, I'm actually really, I want to honor you for having this podcast because I don't think you realize how much you're celebrating Indianapolis creatives and their work, and it really is elevating this community. So thank you.
Well, I appreciate
first of
that.
all.
Thank you for that. Okay, so I want to say before we dive into the conversation, before we hopped on mic, you mentioned having been following me on LinkedIn since you were in college.
Yes.
And I'm not going to lie to you. I'm going to be vulnerable with you for a second. It made me feel kind of ashamed that I don't have a better relationship with you, that you've been connected to me for so long, or however long that's been.
Yeah.
And I haven't connected with you or known you more or got to know you more prior to this past year, or this past 6 months, I would say.
Yeah.
And so, I don't know, it just made me feel, I feel like I've kind of gotten over the idea of parasocial relationships in terms of what I do on social media. But for some reason, just when you said that, I'm like, man, Madeline is so cool. I feel bad when I haven't reciprocated that.
You know what? That is okay.
Connection, you know?
That is okay.
I appreciate it. It just got me in my feels a little bit.
I don't have a kid, man. You have a kid, it's different. So
well,
I was also in college, not studying. So it's fine.
Well, I appreciate it. It's just I don't know, for some reason, I feel like it was the right way to set the stage for this conversation. I've been really looking forward to it because I think we're going to dive into some of those bits. But before we start, I gave you a little bit of an introduction, but for folks listening or watching who don't know who you are, do you mind sharing just a little bit more about yourself?
Yeah. So my name is Madeline. I grew up in Mexico City and moved to Indianapolis. My family lived in Lawrence area, right on the border of Lawrence and Indianapolis. It was always a fight in my family. Where do we live? But I grew up in Mexico City. It was a really formative time of my life. It was really important for me to be, as a brown, young, Latina girl in my culture and immersed in my culture. I think that that's something that I really love and celebrate about my story. I studied community development. I've always had a heart for people, and that has looked different over the last 10 years. I'm 23, so I'm young. I just graduated. I'm just getting into this work, and I love that because I feel like there's a lot ahead of me, and I honestly feel honored to be where I am. Indianapolis is definitely home. I love the creative work and the creative agency that I see people taking. I love being connected to even businesses and how can we create a more vibrant creative economy through businesses, and it's just really cool. I think we're in a really cool moment in Indy. I think we're in a really cool moment as a society. And so what I love to do is connect people and connect ideas with people and see them activated. And so I'm an Orr Fellow. Orr Fellowship is a 2-year program for college grads that connects college grads to entrepreneurial opportunities and also places college grads with a business to work at. And so I've been an Orr Fellow for the last year. Transparently, 5 months into being an Orr Fellowship, I was I'm not really sure that I like this. What do I do to help myself understand what's going on? And now in hindsight, I can see that a lot of that was just me being overwhelmed by starting adult life because it's a lot. Sure. But I did start Frida's Flowers in the midst of that, and I'm really thankful for that. Frida's Flowers I started it really because actually, like, the honest story is my friend broke her hip and I took her some really poorly arranged flowers from Trader Joe's. And Trader Joe's has great flowers, but the way that I arranged them, it was not good. So I took them to her, and it was great. It was a moment of like, oh, I love this creative moment, and I loved how I got to arrange the flowers, and I loved like working with nature. I loved working with plants, and I loved just like what that meant. At the time that I started Frida's Flowers, I was also immersed really like heavily, dab smack in the middle of a coach certification training program called Lark Song. And Lark Song's vision is to courageously co-create a more fulfilled and flourishing world. And they do that through coach training programs. So training people to be international certified coaches. So like life coaching, executive coaching, all kinds of coaching. And then they do well-being education, so creating access to well-being education, and then culture care. So I was very involved with this organization, learning a lot about ancestral connection, learning a lot about my own heritage, learning how to honor that, learning about embodiment, like just learning about all these amazing things that I feel like I truly just didn't learn up until I was in this program. And I don't like fault anyone for that. I just think it was definitely like an honor and privilege to be able to be in that moment in that given time while I was also like starting this business.
Sure.
So it kind of like all came together. I was like, this just makes a lot of sense. I'm trying to connect to my Latina heritage, to what it means to be a brown woman, to what it means to have grown up in Mexico City, to my love for color, and also my love for people and connecting people's stories. So all of this kind of just came to a head, and I was like, flowers is the medium. Not only can I like do something creative with it, but I can also make a business out of it and potentially make a living. So anyways, yeah, I've loved it. It's been really rewarding. That brings me to where I am now, which is 7.5, 8 months into being an entrepreneur part-time and still having a full-time day job. So it's definitely a dance. I don't like to call it like a struggle. I like to call it a dance because that's what it feels like. It's like some days I'm working full-time for my company and some days I'm like completely on Frida's, and it just depends. So anyways, yeah, that's me.
I love it. We also talked about first off, thank you for sharing.
Yeah.
We also talked about before we got on mic how a lot of things are always happening. And you got a lot of stuff going on that we're going to talk about later.
Yeah.
But I like that the kind of the birth of Frida's didn't only just come out of like connecting with a friend and bringing her a gift of joy in some way, but out of you doing the most, but all of the different things you find yourself involved in just kind of like pushing you in that direction.
Yeah.
So I guess I want to start there in the idea that when I first connected with you, and like when Casey, shout out to Casey Harrison.
Shout out to Casey.
Who connected us and said that we needed to meet. I knew you as Frida.
Yeah.
Because I was aware of Frida's Flowers because your work during All-Star.
Yes.
Specifically with Samson. Shout out to Samson.
Shout out to Samson.
With the basketball. And I was always really like, I was drawn to that work. Yeah. And then we were connected and we talked. And what I found striking first was that your name wasn't Frida, that it was Madeline. But also that one of the things I felt like we were really connected on was this idea of connecting to our roots. You talked about having grown up in Mexico City. Yeah. When did you immigrate to, or when did your family come to the States?
So I was actually born in Indianapolis, but then moved to Mexico at a young age and then moved back when I was 10. So I was there for like the majority of my formative years. And my dad got a job and like, it just was like a work related thing. So, but it also happened to be like my family, like heritage is like Mexican. So like how can we, like that's such a cool opportunity to not only have that reality, but then also like the opportunity to live in Mexico.
Yeah.
So it's really fun, like being a part of Latinx community and being a part of, particularly the Latina community. Like how, like I feel like there's a piece of my story that I really value in that I was able to live there. Like a lot of my peers haven't been able to live there for a lot of different reasons. And so that's a privilege that I definitely had to be able to live there and be around people. But when I was younger, like I didn't know a lot about race and a lot about color and a lot about like understanding what that meant for me in society.
Right.
And I remember going to school. My school there was Amayali. I like still have very fond memories of that school and very like strange memories because my family was like coming from America, but like living there and in a lot of ways from there, but like my dad didn't grow up there. So like a lot of like, there's a lot of like gaps there. But for me, it was really interesting and tense because like my friends would be like stealing my toys that were like from America that they wanted to have. But then I was like scrubbing my skin off, trying to make it lighter because I was like darker than a lot of them. Like really interesting tension. Yeah. And when I was in college, I had somebody like looked at me and they were like, I don't think you fully are owning that you are a brown woman. And like, what does that mean to you? And like, does that even matter to you? And like, you have this part of your story that's so important, but like, do you integrate it? Is it important? All these things. And so I started to really think about like, yeah, how do I want to live my life honoring this and then inspiring other people to honor it too? Sure. But yeah, to come back to like your question around roots is I think having, I feel like in the last few years, there's been a lot of clarity for me around like, yes, this is me learning my place in society and then the reality for brown women is that society isn't in a lot of our favor. And so what do I want to do to create avenues for access and healing and flourishing for brown women? Yeah. And like that was a big piece of Frida's as well.
Well, I think what's so interesting is thinking about how that time spent in Mexico City, like you called it very formative in like the best ways. Yeah. And obviously there were ways that it maybe wasn't the best. Yeah. I can definitely relate to this idea of wanting to have lighter skin. Yeah. Praying to God, why did you make me this way? Yeah. Why did you make my skin like this and make me look different? I can definitely relate to that idea. I'm interested in how from coming back to Indianapolis at 10 to like going to college and having this experience, this call in of like, what do you want this experience to be? And I don't feel like you're fully owning it. What was your connection to culture like at that point? Was it, did it fade away in the ways that you might hear from other immigrant experiences when they find themselves in a predominantly white space? It's like your survival is dependent on your relationship or non-relationship to your culture of origin.
Yeah. I hadn't really thought about it at that point. And so I went to a university where I actually received a full ride scholarship, and it was like a game changer for me because I knew I didn't want to go into debt. And that was my criteria, was where's the most money. And that's where I wanted to go. And whether or not that was the right path, like I ended up in this really beautiful scholarship cohort called the Luther Lee Scholars. And Luther Lee was this advocate for all kinds of people, but particularly people on the margins. So people who were not, people who couldn't like for themselves, like speak up, like they needed somebody else to speak up for them because of the way that society is structured. Right. So I was in this scholarship cohort, and like day one of my cohort, I remember going into this session and the first like thing on this like PowerPoint was race is a social construct. And I was like, okay, day one, we're getting into it. And like, so in high school, actually, I was a part of this group called the Mayor's Youth Leadership Council, a part of Indianapolis. So I worked with Mayor Joe, with a group of really beautiful and diverse people who were also high school students, so juniors and seniors. And we would just like sit around this table and talk about some of the world's most like complex issues. And for us, it was actually really inspiring, where I feel like to a lot of people I noticed like, we don't want to talk about those complex issues because they're complex. Right. But for us in this really special and unique group of people, it was like, that's what we wanted to do. We wanted to talk about mental illness. We wanted to talk about racism. We wanted to talk about sexism. We wanted to talk about patriarchy. We wanted to talk about inequity in the queer community. We wanted to talk about all these different things. And that was so empowering. And so I kind of had come into college with a little bit of like, I'm dabbling in these conversations, but then to go into an academic setting where my curriculum is oriented around race as a social construct and here's the injustices in society, like that was so intensely formative. So anyways, the woman who like spearheaded this scholarship cohort that I was in was the one who came to me and was like, I just feel like you're not owning this. Like she was from Paraguay, had very, very light skin, like looked white, but you could tell like you're not from America, you know, like when you can tell. Yeah. So anyways, I remember like kind of wrestling with that dissonance with her around like, am I brown enough to like be a brown woman? Am I too light? Like, I'm like, what is this tension that I feel? And then quickly learned about like internalized racism and like what that looks like and how I had done that for a lot of my life in the different like groups of people that I was in and around. So anyways, fast forward to being in the Luther Lee scholarship cohort. It was a group of very similar to the Mayor's Youth Leadership Council, like 25 students, all different grades from freshman year to senior year, just getting together around a room where every semester we were talking and tackling really, really intense issues. So solving things like trying to come up with solutions for like world hunger and like just really big things, right? Like what is it poverty, right? Like we would create and design these poverty stimulations and then like go through them and have other people come through them. Like we were so about social justice. Yeah. And it was amazing. And it wasn't as political as it was just like genuine. And like it wasn't this idea of like, let's be political, let's like prove our point, let's like make this like passionate statement. It was like, no, let's be honest about what's going on in the world and in society, and let's be honest about those injustices and let's do something about it. Yeah. And so I think that really catalyzed a lot of my kind of awakening of like, this is my heritage, this is the culture that I come from, this is the brown in me, right? Like this is where I come from, these are my people, this is also where I grew up. So yeah, that's a little bit about like, I don't know. What do you think?
No, I think I appreciate you sharing it, because I think it's a difficult thing to talk about sometimes as we are figuring it out in real time. Yeah. And I can really resonate with the idea of moving towards like more liberal or progressive or social justice focused ideas and concepts. Yeah. And then that catalyzing you to start thinking about your own identity and your own community. Yeah. For me, that's pretty much how it kind of went. But I was so, from a rejection of my own identity standpoint, was so deep in, like, it took a long, long time to get to the point where I was like, oh, okay, that is something that needs to be explored. Yes. Yeah. So I can totally relate to the idea of this being the catalyst for that, and trying to understand place. You talked about like wanting to understand or figuring out, what is my place here in this community or in this space, and what can I do here to uplift women particularly, but the local Latina floral movement essentially, and being kind of spearheading that with what you do at Frida's, which brings me to, you talked about why flowers, friend, broken hip, you put something together, you're like, okay, this is okay, but like, let me get better at it. And then everything that you're about, colors and community and acts of service in that way, all kind of push you in that direction. Flowers is what I can do. My question is, why Frida Kahlo specifically? Yeah. But I think I kind of know the answer. So I want to know, what specifically about Frida Kahlo's activist work in her work drew you to wanting to name the business after her? Yeah. I am really drawn to nuance. And when I think about Frida Kahlo, I think about nuance. I think she was someone who had a really complicated life and story, had a lot of privilege and not a lot of privilege. So what do you do when you have like such tense ideas, right? Like this is someone who has a lot of privilege and somebody who doesn't have a lot of privilege. And so when I started to think about like, what do I want to even name this? I actually initially started the idea because I was like, if I could just create and design like a pop-up cart and sell flowers on a Friday afternoon on the Monon or whatever, like that would be fun. And then it just like kept emerging. And so initially I had this like Frida Kahlo picture hanging on my wall. And I was really thinking to myself, like, what do I want to name this? My partner had asked me, like, what do you want to name this? Where are you at around like even this becoming a business? And I saw the picture of Frida, and I thought about like how she was a Mexican activist, and also how she was a very nuanced person, a complicated person, and there was a lot of different ideas about Frida Kahlo as a person, and I like that because I think it's actually more reflective of the human experience than like just like one person who everybody admires, and versus, and we're talking about somebody who endured a lot of like pain and
her way of processing that pain, a lot of people don't know what to do with that.
Sure.
Like she was just very honest and brutally honest, and that made a lot of people uncomfortable. And I was drawn to that. I was drawn to like the nuance and the like mess of that, because I think, again, that's just really accurate of the human experience. So like what it's like to be a human is just messy and it's just nuanced, and there's a lot of layers to it. So those are some reasons why I was drawn to Frida. There were like a lot of layers and a lot of things came together, but it did feel divine. It felt like, oh, this makes sense. And she's also an artist. So for me, I think I've always been a musician, but I haven't really tapped into a lot of other mediums. And I sing, I play guitar, I play piano. So I've always been around like the art community in different capacities, but it's primarily been in this musical capacity. And so I wanted to shift into like exploring other mediums and having that influence of Frida Kahlo, who had a lot of mediums, particularly painting, but she also used flowers and she used a lot of other mediums, poetry, writing, right? Like she just used a lot of creative mediums to express herself and to communicate a message. So yeah, those are some reasons why I love Frida.
No, I love it. And I appreciate all those reasons because it gets me to wanting to break down one of the things that I mentioned in your intro, which is come straight from your bio about merging creative activism and bold artistry.
Yeah.
Can you define for you what is creative activism?
Yeah. So activism has a bad rap in a lot of communities and a really amazing rap in a lot of communities. And I think for me, when I think about activism, I think about standing up for something that's not right, like noticing an injustice and doing something about it actively. Like taking action around that injustice to right the wrong or to alleviate the suffering or whatever that looks like. And whenever I thought about activism and what that looks like creatively, I really noticed like in my coach certification training, actually, we did a lot of research around play and how important play is for humans.
Interesting.
And so think about corporate world, think about like the inception of America and how like the first thing that comes to mind is not play when I think about those things, right? But when I think about things that are like healing and beautiful and even like a lot of Latin American culture, there's just so much play integrated with cultural norms. So whether that's through color and expression, like think about the way that America expresses itself through like a lack of color often.
Right.
Like when you want to be professional and make a point, you put on a gray or black suit, right? But when you want to be professional and make a point in a Latin American country or in another country, you often dress up, you kind of are elaborate, you're expressing yourself. So there's this like difference culturally, and not that one is better than the other, but I am drawn to the one that is around play.
Yeah.
And so for me, how can we be creative about activism? Well, let's do something with an artistic medium to convey a message. And I think a lot of artists are doing this and maybe not calling it creative activism, although it is.
Sure.
But I mean, there's so many artists in Indianapolis who are doing something creatively around like even clothing, right? Like you and I both love clothing, like Indianapolis clothing brands. Like
100%.
That's such a creative medium.
Yeah.
And so when I think about activism, it's like, how do we communicate a message about this injustice and what we're planning to do about it as a community in a way that's really captivating? Because that actually draws in like way more audiences, right? Than if it was like,
100%.
I'm just gonna speak on a stage and tell my story.
Yeah.
And for me, it's like, if I can have a creative medium to express this thing in me that is like yearning for alleviation or like yearning for relief, then it's gonna be flowers or it's gonna be music or whatever it is, right?
Yeah.
So that's like what I would say about creative activism. And like I said, like you and I both know, and I think this is like everybody that you interview is a creative activist in their own right. Like these people who are just bringing this sense of creative wonder and awe. Even this podcast is an act of creative activism. Like you're telling a story about something that could be better. You're envisioning and casting a vision for human flourishing through a podcast.
Yeah.
Like that's amazing.
100%.
And I like that leaves the door open for Fridas to expand beyond flowers as well eventually. Like I don't know what that looks like, but I do really appreciate that without even knowing, like I was starting something that people in Indianapolis have come to me and been like, we needed this. Like our community needed this. We needed something this creative and this like alive in Indianapolis. Right. And so for me, it's like, I think let's keep tapping into that. Yeah. And what are all the different ways that we can, right?
How can we tap into the play more?
Yeah.
And how can we get the corporate spaces to tap into their play experiences, their play tendrils, whatever it might be. I appreciate you sharing all that. It made me think about something that Murdoch said. Shout out to Murdoch. On his episode, he talked. Well, actually, no, that's not true. It was actually in his TED Talk. Check that out. He says that storytelling lives rent-free at the heart of our liberation.
Oh, wow.
And
that's powerful.
I think that one of the things that I've noticed, not just on this show, but in conversations I've had with creatives all around the city, is that at the root of everybody's work is some form of storytelling. And like you said, it's not just going on the stage and doing a story slam, which is also creative and a great way to express and tell
100%.
your story, but not the way that everybody does it. And there are other ways, other mediums for us to tap into. Something that you have done through floral creation in a way that other florists that I have come across, I just don't think convey in the same way. And again, not saying one or the other is better or worse. It's just different.
It's just different.
And so how does that storytelling aspect fit into the foundation of Frida's and how you come to craft your installations, your exhibits, whatever it might be? How do you weave storytelling into a floral construct?
I love that question. I shouldn't say on a podcast, should I?
No, it's all good. Are actually a natural thing for podcasting. I used to, when I first started podcasting, took them all out. And I will say, truthfully, the only reason I stopped taking them out is because I was too lazy. But I'm like, it actually sounds better. I'm like, the podcasts I like, they all leave the ums in. And I'm like, I'm going to leave them in.
Speaking of podcasts, this actually ties into your question. I had a podcast in college. The mascot. Yeah.
I thought you were about to say the Masked Singer, and I was like, that's a TV show.
The mascot of our university is the Wildcat, so I named it Wildcat Chats. And what I wanted to do, it was at the height of 2020, like July 2020. So tense, right? In all aspects.
Yes.
And for so many communities. And so liberating at the same time. And so I really wanted to tap into, there's like 8 professors of color at the university. So PWI, really suffocating in a lot of ways. And there's opportunity because there's so few to really tap into what are these stories and why is it important that we know their stories and why is it important that we continue to invite and create a space systemically at this university where more people of color can come and feel welcome and invited and wanted and needed. So I started this podcast, and the whole purpose of it was let's storytell. Let's talk about the stories on campus. Let's talk about what it's like for this person. I remember Andre Payne. Shout out to Andre if he listens to this. But Andre Payne was just my favorite professor. He was in the business school and did a lot of work around communications. Really highly educated. So I didn't even take a single class with him, but we just were connected. And I really admired what he had to say about story and about how it shapes us. And I think one of the things that I took away from him and from a lot of the other professors, Sarah Farmer was the director of community development there, just really sharp people who I had the opportunity to connect with, who are this very small community of professors of color. And the thing that I learned was that the story that you tell yourself shapes who you become. So the story that you tell yourself about the world or about society or about this person or that person actually shapes what you end up thinking about them. And then consequently, what your action is. And so then in terms of storytelling through a creative medium like flowers, for me, it became, okay, a lot of people don't want to hear stories because they've already made a story for themselves and they already are listening to it and they don't know how to get unstuck from that story. So whether it's I'm ugly, I'm just going to basic stuff.
Sure.
I'm not enough. I'm not smart. I'm not whatever. Insert story. Or I started to interact with a lot of humans who are incredibly good at storytelling in their own lives. So I'm actually really capable. I'm actually really worthy. I'm actually inherently unique. And so is this person next to me. And my uniqueness and that person's uniqueness is not a detriment. It's actually a strength. So I started to kind of be around people who had this elevated sense of story and how to tell story. And with flowers, it's this approachable medium of a lot of people just see an arrangement that I make and respectfully they just see it.
That's
it's
so
just
beautiful.
Right. That's gorgeous and that's
it.
And then there's some people who are so moved by the beauty of the flowers, and they're rare. And I'll be honest about that, and that's okay because I think we're still trying to educate. I'm still trying to educate people around how they might posture themselves toward like nature, like something like an arrangement of flowers, right?
Right.
But like there's this idea of like, if we can tell a story through something so approachable as a flower, then how might that story land differently than if I were to tell that story just me ranting on my LinkedIn, or like me, like
Sure.
whatever, insert whatever like method that I can gravitate toward. And it's been a challenge for me to like, because I know people don't like even sometimes read my captions, and that's okay. But like a lot of times the captions will be just as important as the picture, or like,
Right.
here's the story behind this that you might not catch if you don't read it.
Right.
And then I go into like, how can we train ourselves and our communities to recognize stories where they're hidden, right? Like if somebody walks into a restaurant and sees an arrangement of flowers, how can we train people to think, okay, there's a story here. What is the story? And what's the invitation for me then? Right. That's what I think about.
I freaking love that. Clip all of that. Like, clip all that. We're going to need that taken out. I mean, I'm just like, I have a lot of different directions I want to go. The thing that's sticking with me is this concept of using the construction, the floral arrangement to not only get people to think about a different story, but get them to start thinking about telling themselves a different story.
Yeah.
I think that's really, really powerful. An idea that is like Inception-esque in its way, because you're planting the idea of like, this person has to now start thinking differently and telling themselves a different story.
Yeah.
And I'm glad you bring up your Instagram captions, because you're making this conversation very easy for me to open my notebook here, because I wanted to talk to you about that. I have really been enjoying the content that you've been putting out,
Thank you.
particularly the Healing Your Inner Child series.
Yeah.
What does it mean to be so openly vulnerable on the gram, not just as a business, but as an individual who some people still mistake as the business.
Right. Yeah. And that's like what I'm always kind of going back and forth between, is like, do I tell my personal story here, or do I like let this be a business thing? And then like my coach is always like, it's all integrated. Like, why would you try and separate it? So I'm like, okay. For me, it is vulnerable, and it's weird because, I mean, there are people from past parts of my life that are reading these posts and are like, oh, like that's interesting, or like reacting in ways that I think aren't very natural, but like,
well, I had no idea.
Right.
About
right.
you.
Right.
It's like, well, then you weren't paying attention.
Right. Yeah. And like, I think I have a lot of compassion for that, but I think I love Brene Brown a lot, and I think it's cliche to love her, but I do love her. So she has a lot of work around vulnerability. And one thing that I love that she talks about is like, you have to have she calls it like it's like a 3x5 card, and you write the names of the people that you trust the most on that card. And then when you make a decision in your life, or when you've got something that's going on, or when somebody gives you feedback, you weigh it against those 5 people, and you talk about yourself and your life against the perspective of those 5 people, because they're the ones who know you, see you, understand you the best through and through. And so they're getting a full understanding of who you are, all the mess, all that. So when I think about being vulnerable, I think about like, I'm not going to just like share everything that is on my heart for everyone to hear, right? Like, I'm not going to just like be like, here's the 10 things that I hate about this or that. I want to be really strategic with my vulnerability, because I think that's actually an act of like maturity. And I also think it's, I don't know, I think it's helpful for other people to see like, you can be vulnerable and not too vulnerable, like to the point where it's like, you didn't need to share that.
Yeah.
And so I love like being able to do it through flowers is easy because it's disarming. Like, sometimes I do put videos of myself talking, but I'm not just like putting myself like ranting about like my life story and this, that, and the third, right? And I also think with the inner child healing series, I've loved doing that, because I actually think there are a lot of threads. Whenever I create those, I try and ask myself like, who have I interacted with this week? And what do I notice? Like, I might not be right about their story, but what do I notice in them? What am I seeing or picking up on in them that tells me that maybe this is a part of their healing story too? And how can I create an environment where like it's really easy to imagine healing and flourishing? And I think flowers are just a really disarming way. Instead of somebody being like, here's like a therapist number, like that's beautiful and good and necessary, and it's not
Right.
it's not disarming.
No. Yeah,
Like,
you
oh
can't
my
just
God,
be
what's
up in
wrong
the
with me,
face.
right?
Yeah. For sure.
And I just think like flowers are such a disarming way of communicating that like there is healing that is available.
Yeah. Well, and it's like a subliminal message of community
Yeah.
and communal healing because it's multiple different things come together to create one community.
100%.
And I
That's so
love
beautiful.
that way of how what's informing that series, the Inner Child series, is your community and what you've learned from them.
Yeah.
And how do their stories inform them?
Yeah.
That's amazing. It is intentional.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's what I love about your writing is it's very intentional. You recently shared, I don't know if this was today or maybe 2 days ago, a post that was titled, I will give more than I take.
Yeah.
I really, really love that one. You ended that talking about some of the things that you've learned through this work.
Yeah.
And one of the things that you wrote about was learning to take my work sincerely.
Yeah.
Which I think is really, really interesting. And it actually, honestly, it's been like playing over in my head since I read that line, because I think we always hear people say, I take my work seriously.
Yeah.
Or you need to take your work seriously.
Yeah.
And I think that is important, but I think you can be serious without being sincere.
Yeah.
And when you're sincere,
So true.
you show up in different ways and you leave a different impact.
Yeah.
Than what you may have when you show up as just a serious person.
Yeah.
Can you talk about like you said, people may not read the captions.
Yeah.
And that sucks. It sucks that people don't because we take the time to write these things. And I would say unless you have a million followers and 5,000 of them are reading the caption, that looks good. That feels
Maybe
good.
3 people are reading it. And that's okay.
But I know that life for sure. For people who maybe did not read the caption, can you just talk about this idea of taking your work sincerely, giving more than you take, and what that means in the scope of the last 8 months of doing Frida's and just your own personal journey?
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of people in the world who just approach life with this really serious, everything is serious and it's a gray wall everywhere and it's, right? Like it's just really serious. And I was, I've been working with my coach, Megan Gilmore, who's amazing. She's the executive director of Lark Song, which is that program that I had been in last year. She is she's my coach. And, which I was like really trying to like bounce this idea off of her of like, I want to take what I'm doing really seriously, but the word serious doesn't land and it doesn't inspire me and it doesn't make me want to like keep coming back. And she was like, well, what if you say you want to take your work sincerely or you want to take yourself sincerely? Because it's like the same, it like sounds the same. It has the same like rhythmic like tone to it as a word. So it like it just fits. And I think that there's really different meanings to both of the words. And so for me, like, taking my work sincerely looks like I'm going to integrate play a lot. And people who look at my work or even hire me may have different ideas about that. Everybody has different ideas about everything. But I think like the thing that I am particularly coming with that I think is unique is this idea of like, we don't need to be so serious.
Right. And
we do need to be sincere. Because seriousness actually is like really connected to like an inflated ego of like, I have so much to contribute to the world, but, and like, this is the most important thing. And like, for me, it's like, I know Frida's Flowers is important and it's not the most important thing. And it's not the only important thing. And so I think for me, the idea of like taking my work sincerely ropes in this like piece of humility of like, I can be humble about my work and honest about like the fact that it's not perfect. And I can continue to show up wholeheartedly, with like no reservation about like bringing even like emotion into the work. Like that's something that I think is a narrative around business that business should be separate from emotion and opinion and all these things. And I just think that that's a bunch of bullshit. Like how can it?
I was literally just about to say, how can it be?
Like how can it be?
When you are an entrepreneur or a small business owner, it can't not be.
No.
Because it's tied to your well-being.
100%. And even like large corporations who have it, strong executive teams who like portray themselves as these really serious, like macho men. Like, it's like, respectfully, I know you have a family and feelings, and you go to bed every night wondering if this is what you should be doing with your life too.
Right.
You're not any better than us. And that's, I think, what I love about the word sincere instead of serious is like, this work isn't better than so-and-so's work, than your work, than anybody's work. It's just good work, and it can be taken sincerely, and it doesn't have to be the best, and it doesn't have to be like, it just doesn't have to be so serious.
Yeah, 100%. That was beautiful. I appreciate you sharing that. I've just been really moved by the words you've been penning recently.
Thank you.
And I feel like more people need to hear them. And I feel like something that just you breaking that down has made me think about in the scheme of this entire conversation is this idea of creative activism being like something artists like chooses to involve themselves in. And when it comes to activism, you talked about it has a bad name a little bit. It carries like a not so great stigma sometimes because it's been associated and been put into rhetoric that is meant to be divisive, is meant to drive you away from the reality of what activism is. Like you said, it's just standing up for, you know, what you think is right, what you believe in.
Yeah.
Or for against injustice.
100%.
For yourself, who is an artist, what is the current reality for folks in that position, I guess, like us? I guess from your perspective, what does it mean to sacrifice, to pursue this as an entrepreneur? And so I ask this because I think people see Instagram, they see the pictures, they see the collaborations, the opportunities, and if they're not reading the captions, if they're not watching the stories, if they don't know the person behind the Frida, they don't know about the whys of why you're doing the work that you do and the causes that you take up for and what you believe in. And I think that sometimes in the pursuit of those things, we have to give up stuff that you don't see. And it's hard to talk about sometimes. And I was just wondering, you don't have to share any specific instances, but just trying to, if you can, share what it means to you to sacrifice in pursuit of the greater whole, I guess I would call it.
Yeah. I think that's so beautiful the way you worded that, by the way. And I think you have a gift with words, so you should pursue that.
I've stumbled over many words in this conversation already. I've already been self-editing in my head, like, take that out. But I appreciate that.
I'm like always excited to read your stories. I'm always like, what Pacers thought does he have now? Or like what?
Don't even get me started. That's coming next year, Pacers podcast.
But I mean, like, even you doing that is a sacrifice. Like, you know that I think if the goal was to make everybody happy, I would never be doing this work. It just is not realistic. Like, people are going to be confused, or people are going to be like, and don't get me wrong, like there's a majority of people who are like, this is amazing and beautiful, right? Like, and so I feel very supported. I absolutely don't feel a lack of support. And there are definitely people who I'm like, ooh, like, I don't think you get it. I don't think this like makes sense to you. And that's okay. And I think what it means to me to sacrifice is like, I believe that that's like my human responsibility is to reciprocate, right? Like, even thinking about like the earth and how like I have oxygen in my lungs, and I have actually, that's a part of my story, is I was born as a preemie, and I like should not have lived, was sent to the NICU for a solid like 16 days, had like very underdeveloped lungs. And so it's funny because I have a really powerful voice, like singing voice. And so like the way that is very interconnected it just amazes me. But I think about that with all humans. Like, we all have these like gifts and things that have been given to us. And so what does it look like to then give back? And it almost doesn't even feel like a sacrifice. It just feels like it's the right thing to do. Like, there are days when I'm definitely like, oh, what am I doing? This is crazy. I should just be working my 9 to 5. And there are days when I'm like, okay, no, this is actually really beautiful and motivating. And I think the answer for me hasn't been in trying to like have more days that are good versus more days versus like bad. But the answer instead has been like, how do I just embrace all of it and like let it all be a mess? Like, let myself like do this dance that is like life and the nuance of it. So, the sacrifice feels more like a dance, honestly. It feels like it's it's healing for me. And it's motivating me to like challenge myself and keep myself accountable. If I'm gonna say something publicly on Instagram around accountability, then I need to be holding myself to the exact same, or if not way higher standards, right? Like there's a level of accountability there, and that even is vulnerable because I know I'm also a very complicated human and I'm gonna disappoint people, and so like even that is weird, and feels like a sacrifice of like some of my own like inner peace, because it can definitely feel like, oh, like I just put myself out there in this way. And I don't know who's going to receive it. And they might receive it really poorly and harm me. And they might be really like, fine.
Right.
So,
but all you can do is put yourself out there as you, the authentic you. What a full circle moment of you started off talking about you've been telling other people it's a dance, not like a burden or, whatever. It's just like a dance you got to figure out. You navigate. And you brought it back. It's a dance. It's not a sacrifice. Yeah. It's just a dance that you approach day by day. That was fantastic. I had something else I wanted to ask, but okay. In respect of your time, we have a recurring segment on the show called "Give Them Their Flowers," where guests. How did I already forget? I didn't write it down. I've had it written down. Where guests choose or give their flowers to one person, one thing, one business, whatever it might be that they feel deserve their flowers right now. So, Madeline, you have kindly sponsored this segment. Frida has kindly been the sponsor of this segment since we've been running it for the past month, I believe, which I appreciate you for. And I have to put it to you now. Who would you like to give their flowers to today?
Can I do multiple people?
You can.
Okay. I would like to give my flowers to Lark Song as an organization. They have this camp every year called Superhero Camp for kids ages 5 to 10. And they literally are teaching 5-year-olds how to understand their values. Like, what other 5-year-old is learning? Like, where are people doing that? That's just amazing. So Lark Song as an organization has been incredibly life-changing for me. So I would give it to literally everyone. And then I would also say, I'd really like to give flowers to my friend Casey. She is someone who continues to show up even when other people don't. And that's hard. And I really, really, really respect her for the commitment to integrity that she has and like being consistent in her work enough to make an impact every day. So I would give my flowers to both Lark Song and Casey Harrison.
Lark Song, Casey Harrison. Yeah. Shout out to y'all. Shout out to you for sponsoring the segment, for hooking people up with some dope pieces, for making the show look amazing.
Not today, though, for some reason.
Not today, though, for some reason. It's okay. And the wide will just Photoshop in an older installation.
Perfect.
But I just appreciate it because something that I've always wanted to do in my conversations is not just highlight how we support the person that we're talking to, but who are they learning from? Who do who are they just getting joy from? Like, who do they want to hype up? Yeah. And you have helped us, be able to tangibly support those people and literally give them their flowers. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
No problem. I appreciate you. All right.
Somebody got to get Patrick his flowers.
Nah, I don't need any flowers.
Yeah, he does. He does need flowers.
No, never mind. I'll get my wife flowers. Cut that out. Cut that. All right. I have just a couple more questions for you before we get out of here today. I appreciate everything that you've shared. I think it is not only indicative of your own journey, I think it is great foundational advice, a lot of it for people who are coming up in creative spaces, wherever it might be, whether it's in the floral game, whether it's in any artistic endeavor. Can you give or leave one piece of advice for creators who are entering into their activist spaces and phases?
Discover your true self and stay relentlessly connected to your true self.
Discover your true self and stay relentlessly connected to it.
Yeah, like keep discovering it, keep exploring it, keep playing with it. Yeah.
Right back to play. This whole conversation is about circles. And it's
I'm telling you.
In the best way. I used to have this really bad idea of like circular being like you never really go anywhere. But it's like, it's interesting because it's a circle, but it doesn't like connect. It's like one of those mazes that just kind of goes out. And
it's like the earth. You just like, you go around it and then you keep, it's just, you've been a lot of places.
I've been a lot of places. I've been around the sun a number of days. It feels like too many. Madeline, I've appreciated this conversation. It makes me excited for young people. Excited about the young people. I know that I am also probably a young person as a millennial, but I feel old because I'm 10 years older than you. And you have just done so much in your short 23 years. I think it's fantastic. I think it's incredible. I think what you're doing in the city is incredible. I think the way that you have already left your mark in 8 months is something to behold, especially for people wanting to pursue a small business. And I don't know why I keep doing this with a pencil. It's going to be a great clip.
You're proving a point.
But yes, no, it's just, it's really fantastic and it's really inspiring for me. Last question. How do we support you? After we get out of this conversation, how do we follow you? How do we find you? How do we stay in touch?
I would say follow on Instagram. That's like where you can find all the updates, all the fun ways you can connect to Frida's Flowers and the broader work. Eventually, what I would like to start is actually like have a scholarship fund for Latina creatives to be able to pursue their creative entrepreneurship as well. And so the more people that are aware of that, the more funding we have around that, the more possible that becomes. And so that's one way. And then buy flowers. Like buy flowers for your friends, for your community, for yourself. If you have a wedding, if you have an event, there are a lot of ways that you can support. I'm going to be like a freaky florist, so you should be prepared for like some funk. Like I'm not going to be like
decolonized funk.
That's right. It's going to be funky with me, so just be prepared. But I do, those are some ways you can connect.
Okay, I love it. I like the scholarship fund idea. You talked about branching out in other areas besides the flowers.
Yeah.
I'm excited for what you got coming up.
Thank you.
I'm excited for what you've got cooking in the back half of 2024.
I'm excited for you. You should be excited for you.
I'm pretty excited, I guess. I think. I don't know. We'll see. We got stuff going on.
We should keep collaborating.
We're going to keep collaborating.
Okay.
We're going to talk. I got stuff.
Cool.
Thank you so much for doing this.
Thanks,
it's been a pleasure. For everybody else out there, new episodes every Tuesday, wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube. Follow us on IG at Conversation Podpiece. Go to conversationpeacepod.com to check out all of our previous episodes, to sign up for the newsletter, to do all of the other things. Having conversations about merch. I know I've been saying it for literally a year and a half, but I'm going to continue to say it until it is real. That's called manifestation. For everybody else and all other things, I feel like I had another announcement. I'm not sure, but I know that some really cool things are happening. Oh, I know what I was going to say. I do have one last announcement. Okay. This is the final episode of the first half of 2024. It's been really fantastic doing all of these conversations in Indianapolis, and I'm really excited about the conversations we have coming up as well. Want to hear from you, the listeners, the community, the audience, the conversationalists who have been joining us over the past 6 months. Get in the comments, get in the DMs, send me an email, patrick@conversationpeacepod.com. Let me know what you love about the show, what you don't like, and we can keep growing. So I appreciate that. And until all of the cool stuff that's coming, I've been Patrick Armstrong, and this has been Conversation Piece. See y'all soon.